with us on the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, and we're set to bring to you the live procession of the program coming up here from the Federal Executive Council chamber here in the State House, where we're going to have the expanded session of a meeting of that council in honor of former President Mohammadu Buhari. Already we have the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, in here. Some members, that is ministers, are already inside the council chamber, like you can see later on this split screen. And of course we have some members of the leadership of the National Assembly. I've seen the Speaker, House of Representatives, his Deputy Benjamin Kalu. They're all on ground, and we're expecting this President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, any moment from now. Those ministers, council members who went to Daura are on their way right now from the airport, Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, making their way into the State House. And we will be expecting the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, to lead them into the council chamber. Right now, I have with me special advisor to the President on Media and Public Communications, Sunday Dari. Thank you so much for being with us, sir.
Thank you very much, NTA, for having me.
Right. We've seen lots of activities initiated by the federal government in honor of the former president who passed on. We have never seen it like this. What may you say to start with regarding that?
I think what we are witnessing is unprecedented in the history of our country, that you have a sitting president accord an immediate past president this kind of honor and respect. And we have seen just in the last 3 or 4 days, we've seen how President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has risen up to the occasion. He has gone beyond the call of duty. He has accorded the respect and honor that late President Mohammadu Buhari deserves. And in doing this, he has elevated the reputation of our country. He has also brought honor to our citizens, 220 million. The radar of the world is upon us. They're looking at how presidential power is being used. They're looking at the respect we accord our leaders. And I think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has scored for this country some kind of marks in terms of reputation and respect.
You're one of those council members that served with former President Mohammadu Buhari as then Sports Minister and Youth Development. That was a very important sector under that administration. Of course, we saw some reforms under that administration as well. So what do you have to say about the immediate past President, Mohammadu Buhari?
Well, he was a great supporter of the youth. He always tells me, you need to put them to work. You need to keep them busy. And whatever you need to keep them busy, I will approve. Of course, sports too was major. And each time we needed presidential intervention, we got those interventions very easily. But I think the high point of that administration was the approval by former President Muhammadu Buhari of the National Sports Industry Policy. This country had lacked a coherent sports policy for several decades, and we got that approved. Also, our football was suffering a lot of setbacks, and we put together, with his blessing, a 10-year football master plan, which right now is being implemented to rev up our football. I can say very clearly, he supported youth development, he supported sports development, and he gave us all the support that we needed. And when we returned from the Commonwealth, where we won massive medals, the highest number of golds, he was able to rise up and confer national awards on more than a dozen of our athletes. That has never happened before. So I think that what we're seeing today, even at the special FEC, it's appropriate. We must thank President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for being so gracious, for being a statesman, for being a true leader, and for holding up the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria the way it should be held.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sunday Dare, Special Advisor to the President on Media and Public Communications. He was also a minister under President Mohammadu Buhari then. And now we just realized that those who went to Dara are back with us in Abuja at the State House now. And one of them is a Minister of Information and National Orientation. Mohammad Idris is back in the State House. Yes, thank you so much, Honorable Minister. How was the journey by?
Well, the journey was good. We had to race back because, we took off from Daura about an hour and a half ago. We landed and we just arrived at the villa ahead of the FEC meeting, which will start any moment from now.
Okay. The President gave some directives about the activities in honor of the former presidents. How did it go in Daura?
Well, everything has gone according to plan. First and foremost, recall that the President directed the Vice President with his Chief of Staff to go to London to bring the remains of the late former president. That was executed. He brought him back on Tuesday. The President himself was on ground in Daura together with other visiting heads of state. He was also accompanied by all the 25 cabinet ministers. All of us, as directed by Mr. President, went to Daura, and we didn't just go there to commiserate. We sat through all the events. Only this afternoon, the final prayers were offered in Daura, and all of us, jumped in the plane and came back here, led by the Vice President. So it's been an unprecedented show of respect and honor to someone who really deserves it because of the services he has rendered in this country. President Buhari wasn't just a leader. He was in his own right a statesman in every respect. He was a political leader. He was a military general. He was so many things to so many people, not just in Nigeria, but across the globe. You can see the flurry of letters that Mr. President has received. Condolences in that regard. Only this afternoon, one former President Boni Yayi, was also in Daura with us. But before then, traditional rulers from across Nigeria. In fact, beyond Nigeria, we had traditional rulers from Niger Republic. The Sultan of Maradi in Niger came with a retinue of traditional rulers, just as the Emir of Daura, Emir of Katsina, and other emirs were there on hand to also receive the visiting dignitaries that have come. Up until we left, his house was still full of activities, and we expect that it's going to continue for some time to come. I remember that the President said that it's going to be a 7-day period of mourning, aside from the public holiday that was granted. This is all part of it. Today we're going to have the first Federal Executive Council specially specially put together by Mr. President, an expanded one for that matter, having the leadership of the National Assembly, having members of the late President Mohammadu Buhari's family, all of them coming here. And any moment from now, we'll go into the council chamber behind me here to at least honor this gentleman who gave all to Nigeria. And I do hope that there is a big lesson here. You can see a show of unity, like the President, led by Mr. President himself. He has demonstrated leadership. He has demonstrated that Nigeria can come together at difficult times like this. And that's why all of us are here, queuing behind the President, queuing behind his vision, queuing behind his message to Nigeria. And that's why we are all here today. I think that the positives of the President Buhari's passing is the fact that it has given us an opportunity once more to come together as one country in unity, so that we can forge ahead behind Mr. President, to deliver the promises that Mr. President has always promised Nigerians.
Well, indeed, Honorable Minister, President Mohammadu Buhari gave his all as a then president. And in addition to those you mentioned, we saw the President of Guinea-Bissau, Umaru Embalo, Sissoko Embalo, and of course we saw Prime Minister of Nigeria, we saw former President Mohammadu Yusuf of Nigeria as well. Now, what does this say of apart from President Buhari being a successor of former President Mohammadu Buhari, what does this say of the personal relationship between them?
Well, first and foremost, I think you have to divide that into two. You have to look at the personal relationship that former President late Mohammadu Buhari has had with other colleagues on the world stage. But you also have to see the continuation and the deepening of that relationship that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Remember that the President only a few weeks ago vacated the chair as chairman of ECOWAS. Recall that soon after he was elected into office, he was asked to chair by his colleagues on the sub-regional body. He was asked to lead the African continent. And so this is also an indication of the kind of trust, the kind of belief, the kind of leadership that Nigeria exudes, not just in the subcontinent body, but on the African continent and also on the world stage at large. And if you look at the message of Mr. President all the time, since he assumed office, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he's not just speaking about Nigeria. He's not only talking about Nigeria. He's also talking to the world as a statesman, somebody who represents, the African continent. That is his message. That is his courage. That is the respect. And, we are seeing also that Nigerians and people from outside this country are seeing that body language of Mr. President, not just being a leader for Nigeria, a leader on the African continent, in the sub-region, a leader also on the world stage. Everywhere he has gone since he assumed office, it is always about not just Nigeria, but about Africa, and how Africa can reclaim its place on the world stage. And that has been, a very successful one. That has earned Nigeria a great deal of respect. And so seeing the foundation led by President Buhari and the consolidation of that by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Nigeria once again is reclaiming its place on the world stage.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Now, NTA is set to bring this program live to the people, to Nigerians. What idea can we have from the programs that we have lined up for this meeting?
Well, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. I know that we have very interesting discussions going on. Mr. President himself is going to lead it. We have leadership of the National Assembly, like I said earlier. We have all the leaders of the other branches of government. They're all coming here. The Vice President, who has just returned with us from Katsina, is also going to be here. In fact, he didn't just come alone. He came with the Governor of Katsina State. He also came with the family members of late President Mohammadu Buhari. Now, what this is showing is the kind of respect that the President continues to give to the person of President Buhari, and also to show Nigerians that we can actually queue behind something that is good, something that is important, something that can also drive this country towards prosperity. The message of disunity is gradually easing. Unity is coming back again. Nigerians are, lining behind their president to forge ahead, to forget about the messages of division, of hate, and all those negative things about this country. And this, once again, is affording us the opportunity to come together so that we can, provide Nigeria under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu with the leadership that Nigeria once again requires.
I may have to let you go. I can see some of my colleagues waiting to take on you as well. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammad Idris. And already we've seen some minister right behind me in their black garments in honor of the former president, who was a #1 man in this house until May 29, 2023. He started in 2015 after several attempts, and he won in the 2015 election, became the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and then served 2 terms till May 29, 2023. Now, the numbers of ministers, council members have continued to increase. We've seen ministers, we've seen SAs, and of course the governors of several states in the council chamber already. And we have the chairman of the Governors Forum, Abdurrahman Abdulrazak of Kwara State, leading them into this council chamber. We're also expecting the Chief Justice of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that's Kudirat Justice Kudirat Kekereakun. She will be part of the session, and we expect a number of them to give their presentations in honor of the former president. The president, of course, like you heard from the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammad Idris, is going to chair this session. And any moment from now, the Vice President as well, who led a delegation to Daura, Katsina State until today, for the way in Katsina, right from London up till this morning, this afternoon actually, when they left Daura and came into Abuja through Casino. So any moment from now, we expect the session to start. It was slated for 5 o'clock, but probably because of the movement of those who came in from Daura Casino, that is why we're having a bit of delay in the commencement of the activities. Like I told you earlier, leadership of the National Assembly, they are on ground. We've seen the Speaker, Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu is around with us, and some ministers in the House. And I can also reliably tell you that President of the Senate is also on ground right now. Let's take you into the council chamber to have a feel of what is happening there right now. The ambience will tell you more about what is going on later, and we'll be back to tell you more about the former President Mohammadu Buhari. Presidents, before the commencement of the meeting, we're having more ministers come in to the State House, and we'll take you back into the council chamber now as the meeting is about to start. We have the Minister of State Works, Mohammadu Bello, with us, who was part of those who went to Daura Casino State as part of the delegation of federal government. Honorable Minister, thank you and welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Okay, what may you say about what happened in Daura in honor of the former president?
Let me begin by saying Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has directed the members of the Federal Executive Council, about 35 of us, including the Vice President, to go to Daura and stay there for the whole period of mourning. And we are just coming back, and we have so far received a lot of condolences from within the country and outside the country. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has shown a lot of empathy, has shown a lot of love, has shown a lot of concern and compassion for the late former President Mohammadu Buhari. From the very day his death was announced, he delegated the Vice President and Chief of Staff to go to United Kingdom to convey the corpse, bring it back to Nigeria. He was on ground at the Casino airport, received the corpse, and went straight to Daura they buried the late President Mohammadu Buhari, and all of us, members of the Federal Executive Council, about 25 of us were there. And after the burial, we stayed there for almost 3 days. And then today was the last day. That's the closing date for the funeral prayers.
Prayer for the deceased. Yes, we saw all of that session, and we saw you live on NTA as we were part of the program. So what do you want to say about the former president, a service to the nation?
Well, let me see this opportunity to condole our dear President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on the demise of late former President Mohammadu Buhari, and of course the entire people of Nigeria for this great loss. And President Buhari was described as an honest leader, a visionary leader, a man that has really put himself to the service of this country. And you can see that a number of people coming within and outside this country, even former president, serving president of some of the our neighboring countries, who are here to really condole with Mr. President and people of Nigeria. And I want to say that it's a great loss to Nigeria, not only to the family or the people of Dora or Katsina State, but to the entire nation. And Mr. President has really shown that compassion, has shown that love, because he has dedicated all his entire, cabinet, and of course his own time. He has sat there even after the burial arrangement, and everything was done perfectly at his presence. And he has really shown that kind of love to the former president. And I want to say that the people of Nigeria has really lost a pillar, particularly the caliber of President Mohammadu Buhari, who has really dedicated his life to the service of this country. And I want to pray Almighty Allah to forgive him and give the family the fortitude to bear this loss.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister of State Works, Mohammad Bello. Right now we have another minister, a cabinet member, a Minister of State, Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Sabi Abdullahi with us. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me here.
President Mohammadu Buhari is gone, and we've seen the demonstration of love by the sitting president, who is was a very close ally of former presidents. And so what do you say of this relationship coming to an end, an era coming to an end as well from President Mohammadu Buhari?
Well, in terms of the physical relation between them, yes, you can say it comes to an end because one of them is no more. But that relationship, that bond, that love that they have built together has not come to an end. And that's why the president said the family of the late president will be catered for. So that relationship still exists. And we believe the legacy of the President Muhammadu Buhari, is one that will continue to reverberate in our nation's history. He's a man who lived a very simple life, a man who believed in self-discipline. In fact, he has said times without number that discipline is the hallmark of how we should be able to tackle most of the problems of our country. And he has demonstrated that in his own lifestyle. He has shown that simplicity is not a crime, rather it is actually a value that you should emulate. He has shown the fact that he loved this country and he loved the people of this country. And I think whatever anybody will say, the time has come for him to be remembered in the very positive impact he has made in this life. He came at a very difficult time, and for whatever anybody will say, I was in the Senate, and I knew for a fact that he was a listening president, because many instances, in spite of the so-called, relationship between the National Assembly and the president, he listened to what the National Assembly has to say, because he's a man who believes in institutional development and he respects all democratic institutions. Yes. And I think for me, it will be also a nostalgic, what do they call it, more or less like a loss that is way too much, because he was a very bosom friend of our late royal father, the late Haliru Dantoro, Emir Bargo, and from which I would say my relationship with him started. So
God continue to be pleased with them. Thank you so much.
Not to fit those.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. And again, now we have the Governor of Katsina, Dikko Rada, with us, who just came in from Katsina this afternoon. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for joining.
Thank you so very much.
We've seen the passion that you have demonstrated. Nigerians have seen in the word of Senate about how much you loved the former president. Now, what do you say of the kind of activities that have been put in place by the federal government and, of course, your own state governments in honor of the former president?
Yeah, you know, ours is people from Katsina State. We don't have words to describe how we can thank Mr. President for all he has done to our hero, to our father, who has been very supportive to us. Since the demise of our late president, His Excellency the President Asuwaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he has been up and running to ensure that everything went on hitch-free. And we will actually appreciate the manner in which he sent the Vice President to pick the corpse of the late president. That is a very great honor to all the people of Katsina State, and also for sitting 25 ministers in Katsina up to today under the leadership of the Vice President is something that we must appreciate. So ours is, on behalf of myself and the government, the people of Katsina State, we really thank Mr. President for what he has done. And we hope and pray that Almighty Allah will bless the gentle soul of our late president. And we must say that we have lost a pillar. We have lost a great man who has been described as one of the most honest people Nigeria has ever produced, and one of the great leaders that Nigeria has also produced. And we must remain grateful for what he has done to us. He's a life well lived. And we hope that Allah will bless his gentle soul and will continue to guide his family and all of us in the best way possible to emulate the good qualities that he has left behind.
Your Excellency, for your perspectives. That was the governor of Katsina State, Dikko Rada, who just came in this afternoon to the State House. Of course, we have more governors in the council chamber, but now we have coordinating Minister of Health and Social Development, Professor Mohammadu Ali with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We've seen how the former president is being celebrated, is being honored by Nigerians, and as directed, as being led, as being demonstrated by the federal government. So what do you say to this?
Well, we are a grateful nation. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has demonstrated that by rallying Nigerians across all divides to cherish this great leader that we have lost. And now what is left for us is to reflect on the lessons of his life, to pray for him, to pray for his family, and to reflect on the lessons of his life. There are important lessons that I imagine already from the narrative of his life. The late President Mohammadu Buhari was an authentic leader. There is no disconnect between what he shows in the front and what he shows inside. You can see consistency across his life. Second important lesson is that he has had his character built over decades of self-discipline and self-restraint. The integrity that we know of him is not easy, but he has restrained himself to keep that. That is a value, the value of integrity. All of our leaders, all of our society has to take care of that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Minister, you have to go in now as the President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, is coming right now into the council chamber, and we take you in to follow the procession live on the network service of the NTA.
Cabinet members. Cabinet members. Cabinet members. Honorable ministers, be seated. Be seated. Mr. President is online. Please be seated. Be seated and no noise, please. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, the Vice Chairman, the President of the Senate, the Honorable Speaker, my Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, the Governors of Kwara, Imo, and Katsina States, members of the Federal Executive Council, members of the family of the late President Mohammadu Buhari. Mr. Chairman, we are here to condole you and to condole Nigerians over the death of former President Mohammadu Buhari. As President today, 6 members of council are not here because they are on official duties. Most of them are outside the country. Today's solemn event has 2 points on its agenda. The memo by Mr. President and tributes by the leadership of the National Assembly and cabinet members, with vote of thanks to be given by the family of the late President. Your Excellency, it is my honor and pleasure to invite you to preside over this special session of the Federal Executive Council called in honor of your immediate predecessor, Your Excellency, sir.
Thank you very much, SGF. Distinguished leaders of our country, Senate President, the Speaker, House of Representatives, the Deputy Senate President and the Deputy Speaker, the Chairman of Governors Forum and the Chairman of Progressive Governors Forum, all members of the Executive Council, to the family of Muhammadu Buhari present here today. Today we gather under the heavy shadow drawn from the silence that surrounds a departed leader and the immense weight of a life whose absence will be felt for generations. We meet to honor a man whose presence once commanded this very room, whose voice once summoned the best in us, and whose conviction never bowed, even to the strongest winds of public opinion. President Mohammadu Buhari, GCFR, former head of state and former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, has gone to rest. He was first among soldiers in war, first among citizens in peace, and first without ambition or flattery in the heart of his fellow citizens. Yet it was in the quiet and unadorned settings of his private life that his true greatness was revealed. Pious, without show, just without cruelty, humane without sentimentality, temperate without coldness, and sincere without God. Steady in posture and spirit, dignified in bearing, and commanding in his very presence. His example guided all who surrounded him. Still, it endures. To his peers, he was respectful and without pretense. To those who served under him, he was kind without condensation. And to those whom he loved most intimately, he was unfailingly tender, loyal, and good. His life was a rebuke to vice and a refuge of virtue. The purity of his private character gave radiance to the discipline and integrity of his public service. Even in death, he maintained the serenity that defined him in life. Not a sigh, not a groan, just a quiet submission to the will of God. Such was the man Nigeria has lost. Such was the man for whom our nation now mourns. President Buhari's life was one of austere honor. He stood always ramrod straight, unmoved by the temptation of power, unseduced by applause, and afraid of the loneliness that often visits those who do what is right, rather than what is popular. Was a quiet courage, a righteousness that never announced itself. His patriotism was lived more in action than in words. His life traced the arc of Nigeria's journey. Born before the independence, he became a young soldier in the struggle to keep our nation whole. In war and in peace, he served with the vigilance and determination, as if the task of watching over Nigeria has been assigned to him alone. From the battlefield to the corridors of power, he remained faithful to the task. He governed the northeastern state and stood as head of state. Years later, his return to the chair to chair the Petroleum Trust Fund, which he administered with Spartan rigor and complete fidelity to the public good. Yet, with all that he had achieved, his most enduring legacy will be carved in democracy, in a time when men had lost hope that change was possible. Mohammadu Buhari put his faith in the people of this country. We stood together, he and I, alongside others, drawn from across the political spectrum, regions, from one ruling party to another. When he was sworn in as our party's first elected president, he led with restraint, governed with dignity, and bore the burden of the leadership without complaint. Those who knew him most intimately understood that the authority of that exalted office never changed him. In the face of pressure, he remained calm. In the face of crisis, he remained resolute. In the face of triumph, he remained modest. Most remarkably, he retained his jovial spirit. When his tenure ended, he returned to Dara, not to command from the shadows or to hold court, but to live as he always had, never seeking to impose his will, but content to let others carry the nation forward. President Buhari was not a perfect man. No leader is. But he was, in every sense of the word, a good man, a decent man, an honorable man. His record will be debated, as all legacies are, but the character he brought to public life, the moral force he carried, the incorruptible standard he presented will not be forgotten. His was a life lived in full service to Nigeria and in fidelity to God. Now he rests, and we who remain must carry the memory of life as a standard to guide us. Let us honor him, not only with words, but with humility in power, discipline in service, compassion in governance, and fearlessness in the pursuit of justice. Our Tuesday, July 15th, 2025. On Tuesday, July 15, 2025, a grateful nation bid farewell to one of our own most illustrious sons. It was a proud honor for me, alongside Vice President Kashif Shettima, to lead the funeral procession to Dara and witness his burial in the dignified manner befitting a great and a noble leader. I thank the Interministerial Committee led by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, and Governor Diko Rada for organizing a befitting state funeral within 48 hours. In this period of national mourning, I once again extend my heartfelt condolences to Abuja Aisha Buhari, our children, the entire Buhari family, the government and people of Katsina State, and all who knew and loved him. Our gratitude will remain with President Buhari's family members, who provided him with the comfort and strength to serve our nation in the various capacities throughout his over 50 years of public service. We honor his service, reflect on his legacy, and pray for the peaceful repose of his soul. May Gazukia, the people's general, the former president, your duty is done. May Almighty Allah forgive his shortcomings and grant him Al-Jannah Firdaus. May his life continue to inspire generations of Nigerians to serve with courage, conviction, and selflessness. President Buhari, thank you. Nigeria will remember you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for this very solemn and patriotic statement on this occasion. Mr. Chairman, the next item we have on the agenda is tribute from national leadership, the National Assembly, and governors and ministers. May I therefore invite the President of the Senate, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Godswill Akpabio, to deliver his statement, his tribute. Because of time, we're expected to keep within 5 minutes. Your Excellency.
Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, Your Excellency, the Vice President, Your Excellency, the Speaker, my brothers, Deputy Senate President, Deputy Speaker, Secretary to Government, and Ministers, let me at this point especially recognize the family of our late hero, the family of President Mohammadu Buhari, GCFR, of blessed memory. So I use the young Yusuf, Mohammadu Buhari, as the point of contact. I rest on other protocol, Mr. President. From me, as President of the Senate, and I want to say my fellow custodians of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, there are moments in the life of a nation when she must pause, not out of routine, but out of reference. Today is such a moment as we gather in very solemn remembrance of President Muhammadu Buhari, a man forged in the furnace of battle and tempered in the trials of governance. A man who gave everything he had to a country that asked everything of him. President Muhammadu Buhari was not perfect. No leader is. But he was a very principled man. He stood for something. And in a world where it is easy to chase headlines, he chose instead to chase honor. Where others sought glory, he sought duty. As a minister in his cabinet, appointed by him, I saw President Mohammadu Buhari unplugged. He was not flamboyant, far from it. His voice was measured, his steps deliberate, his public demeanor austere. But beneath that calm exterior beat the heart of a great patriot, unyielding, unbending, and utterly uninterested in personal comfort, but duty called. He served this nation first in uniform, and decades later he returned to serve it once more, this time in flowing agbada. Whether clad in khaki or in civilian robes, through coups and campaigns, criticisms and crises, he never wavered in his belief in the promise of Nigeria. His legacy is marked by monumental achievements, too many, too vast, and too significant for me to enumerate within the time allotted to me. President Buhari did not merely pass through the corridors of power. He left his boots and imprints in them. He believed that discipline mattered, that integrity mattered, that leadership, even when lonely, must be anchored in something greater than power. He did not seek to ride waves of popular acclaim. He walked with steadiness and often in solitude, along with the reach of national conscience. And let us be honest, he was tough. He was a soldier who did not flinch under fire, a leader who did not flee from responsibility, and above all, a Nigerian whose loyalty to this nation was never up for sale. His toughness was born not out of pride, but of patriotism, a fierce, unrelenting belief that Nigeria, with all its challenges, was still worth fighting for. And yes, some disagree with him. That is the nature of democracy. But even his fiercest critics will admit that he did not pilfer the nation's purse, nor pander to its pleasures. He remained to the very end a sentinel of Spartan simplicity and austere integrity. His life reminds us of a truth often forgotten in this noisy age, that greatness is not always loud, and that history, in its wisdom, sometimes reserves its most solemn applause for those who labored not for fame, but for legacies. Let it be said by generations to come that a man once walked this land with a firm gait, a steady gaze, and an iron sense of duty. His name was Mohammadu Buhari, former president and former commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. May God bless his memory, and may his soul rest in perfect peace. And may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria that he served and loved. I thank you.
Next is the Speaker, Honorable Speaker, House of Reps, Dr. Tajuddin Abbas.
Your Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, the Senate President, the Deputy Speaker, the Deputy Senate President, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the Chief of Staff, members of the Federal Executive Council, members of the family of the deceased President, members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We gather today in solemn reverence to honor the memory of a man whose life and legacy are deeply woven into the fabric of our republic. In this very chamber, where he once presided with purpose and principle, we remember President Mohammadu Buhari, a sentinel of service, a steward of simplicity, and a statesman shaped by sacrifice. President Buhari was no ordinary figure in our national journey. He embodied quiet strength, moral clarity, an unshakable sense of duty. At a time when society was seduced by materialism, he chose a life of modest means and meaningful service. He was devoted to family and steadfast in his Islamic faith. His humor and humility softened his disciplined exterior. Buhari's belief in the brevity of life and the certainty of judgment shaped his aesthetic life and guided his public conduct. He lived not for applause or affluence, but for principle, for country, and for the cause of a better Nigeria. To me, he was more than a leader. He was a member. He was a mentor. He was a moral compass and a source of guidance. My political journey began in 2010 under the banner of the Congress for Progressive Change, a party built on his credibility and character. A few years after my election, he honored me by commissioning some of my constituency projects, making me the first member of the House of Representatives under the CPC to receive such recognition. I remember him in the blazing sun of Zaria, standing shoulder to shoulder with the people he so deeply loved. It was quite a moment that spoke volumes. Years later, in 2023, during a brief meeting in the United Kingdom, he warmly welcomed me following my election as Speaker. His counsel was clear: lead as a servant, never as a master. These words, simple yet profound, have remained my compass. In public office, President Buhari was a true partner in democracy. He respected the independence of the legislature and urged his ministers to engage constructively with Parliament. He signed into law several landmark bills that open political space to young people, strengthened our electoral processes, and laid the foundation for economic reform. His development vision reached beyond the present and into the future. The roads, railways, and bridges he built are lasting gifts to the generations yet unborn. His war against corruption was unrelenting, known to millions as Maigaskia, the honest one. He lived a life free from personal scandal. His simple lifestyle was not symbolic, it was sincere. His integrity set a standard that would long outlive him. Whether as a military officer, a state governor, a federal commissioner, or a democratically elected president, he brought to every office the same discipline, devotion to duty. To those who criticize him from afar, I ask, did you truly see him, hear him, or know him? Did you witness the passion in his voice when he spoke of Nigeria, or the pride in his eyes when he spoke of our people? For if you did, you will respect and honor him. He was not a man of many words, but his words carried weight. His dreams for Nigeria were vast. His commitment to its progress unshakable. He embodied the best in us as a people. Our relentlessness, resilience, love of God, and charity to our neighbors. As we mark the end of his earthly journey, we also mark the close of a defining chapter in our nation's history. But his example endures integrity as the soul of leadership, simplicity in power, patriotism above self-interest, unity in diversity, and resilience in adversity. He gave Nigeria everything he had, from the youthful strength of a young soldier to the wisdom of an elder statesman. He never clung to power. He never sought personal reward. He served, and he stepped aside when his time was up. Let us honor him, honor his life, not only with words, but also with a renewed commitment to the values he cherished. Farewell, Babu Buhari, Nigeria salutes your service, and history in its final judgment will remember you forever. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Next is the Head of Civil Service of the Federation, D.D. Wilson-Jack.
Your Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, Chairman of Council, Your Excellency, the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, Your Excellencies, the leadership of the National Assembly, Honorable Ministers, members of the Federal Executive Council, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and of course the family of our late President. It is with a deep sense of loss and solemn reflection that on behalf of the entire Federal Civil Service, I commiserate with His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, the federal government, and indeed all the good people of Nigeria on the passing of our former President, Mohammadu Buhari, GCFR, who died on Sunday, 13 July 2025 in the United Kingdom. President Mohammadu Buhari was a towering figure in Nigeria's national life, an embodiment of discipline, integrity, and unflinching dedication to the service of our country. His leadership journey, first as military head of state from 1984 to 85, and later as a democratically elected president from 2015 to 2023, spanned critical moments in our history and was underscored by his consistent pursuit of transparency, accountability, and national renewal. Under his stewardship, the Nigerian civil service witnessed a revival of reform efforts. His administration championed and launched the Federal Civil Service Strategy and Implementation Plan 2017 to 2020, and the current successor plan of 2021 to 2025. Mr. President, distinguished members of Council, these reforms encapsulated in these plans reflect President Buhari's enduring belief in the importance of a capable and ethical public service as the bedrock of good governance. They brought to life initiatives that strengthened institutional capacity, which provided the framework for driving professionalism, efficiency, and digital transformation of the service. Even more significantly, Mr. Chairman, the late President's emphasis on merit, discipline, and the rule of law inspired the beginning of a culture shift within the civil service, one that continues to shape the trajectory of ongoing transformation efforts. On a personal note, I had the privilege of having been appointed by the late former president as a federal permanent secretary in 2017. As we mourn his passing, we also celebrate a life well spent in the service of our dear nation. His was a leadership marked by simplicity, courage, and a rare moral clarity, values that remain instructive for all of us privileged to serve in government today. May the memory of President Mohammadu Buhari, GCFR, continue to inspire us to build a more disciplined, transparent, and citizen-centered public service. Thank you, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Head of Service. Next is the Governor of Kwara State, who is also the Chairman, Nigerian Governors Forum, Malam Abdul Razak. Chairman of Council, Your Excellency, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, Your Excellency, Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, Distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio, Your Excellency, the Right Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, the Deputy Speaker, and Deputy Senate President, Your Excellency, the Governor of Imo State, and the Governor of Katsina State, my colleagues here present, the Secretary Governor of the Federation, Senator George Akume, the Chief of Staff, the National Security Advisor, members of the Federal Executive Council, beloved family members of the former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of my colleagues at the Nigerian Governors Forum, I extend our heartfelt condolences to Your Excellency, Mr. President, the government and the people of Nigeria, and the family of our late former President, Mohammadu Buhari. We gather today to pay tribute to a man whose life was woven into the fabric of our nation. A soldier, a patriot, a statesman, and above all, a devoted servant of the Nigerian people. Across the north and south of our great nation, his legacies remain visible and impactful. Mr. President, your gesture towards your brother and predecessor is both historic and symbolic. It reflects a spirit of national unity and respect for the service that resonates with Nigerians and sets a worthy example for generations to come. The state burial accorded President Buhari reflects the esteem in which he was held, not just by this administration, but by Nigerians in general. It speaks volumes about your personal commitment to honoring those who serve this nation faithfully. We pray for the peaceful repose of General Buhari's soul. May God grant his family the strength and comfort, and may the Almighty continue to bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you. Thank you, Governor. Next is the Honorable Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo. It's your turn.
The Chairman of Council and President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, the Senate President, Speaker of the House of Representatives, and kindly at this point allow me to adopt the protocols that have been well established before now to save time. And of course the family of the late President. This is a tribute to a thoroughbred patriot, an officer, and a statesman. The passing of late President Mohammadu Buhari has evoked different emotions and reactions from the length and breadth of Nigeria and even beyond. This is expectedly so because he was one of only two persons in the history of our country who had the opportunity to govern this country twice. First as military head of state, and later as a democratically elected president whose actions and policies shaped this country in many respects that affected and defined the lives and destinies of millions of people. However, one consensus in the midst of these different emotions, opinions, and reactions from friends, foes, and associates alike is that President Mohammadu Buhari served this country completely unblemished. Whether you choose to judge him harshly or kindly, the general consensus is that he embodied honesty and integrity in public office. He was a president who led by example, who walked the talk, who inspired integrity, uncompromising
transparency, and accountability in public office. He was a moral and ethical compass in governance. He served this country with a good conscience, with the fear of God, and with extraordinary discipline. In my immediate reaction after his death, I wrote that they don't make them like him anymore. Not given to the primitive acquisition of unending wealth, frugal in living, austere in lifestyle, not inclined to showboating, and incredibly honest to the core, unquote. The notion of his transparency and honesty was not just a flash in a pan. He was trusted and tested over time because he served at different levels and in different capacities. He was a platoon commander, a commanding officer, a brigade commander, a general officer commanding, a governor of the old Eastern region, North-Eastern region, a federal commissioner, and a chairman of the Petroleum Trust Fund, military head of states, and finally, democratic president. Yet, he was never found wanting for once. I was privileged to serve him in different capacities, and I can attest to his rare discipline. I was his campaign spokesperson in the 2019 presidential election, and then his Minister of States, first in the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, and later in the Ministry of Labor and Employment. From these vantage positions, I saw that he was a fierce stickler for hierarchical order and discipline. The Buhari I know will never, ever sacrifice hierarchical order and discipline on the altar of personal relationships, family ties, or friendships. Once a subordinate can no longer work with a superior, no matter how close that subordinate was to President Buhari, the subordinate will be sacrificed in order for government to function smoothly. There are several examples that I know you all remember, and as Minister of State, I enjoyed that support from him. Only very few people in history have the grace and opportunity to reinvent themselves at the highest level and to recraft their own legacies. From the image of a no-nonsense and stern military dictator of the 1980s, who allegedly truncated democracy and rode roughshod over the rule of law, to the image of a frustrated serial election loser, and then to the hero and symbol of change and hope that the nation chose to defeat a behemoth ruling party and the sitting president in 2015 for the first time in our history. And finally, to the legacy of a sitting president who presided over a peaceful, free, and fair democratic process that produced his successor in office and peacefully handed over power. This is the stuff of which thrilling fictional movies are made. That is why for millions of people, he was an enigma in life, an enigma in death. He oscillated from one perception to the extreme, to the other extreme perception that was diametrically different from the first. At the end, we can conveniently say that President Mohammadu Buhari ticked all the boxes that we can use to qualify a quintessential patriot, a fine officer, and an exceptional statesman. He came, he fought, and he conquered. He has finished the course, and he has run a good race. Goodbye, May Gaskia. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Minister. Next is Honorable Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu.
Your Excellency, Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, Your Excellency, the Vice President, all the leaders of the country and members of the Nigerian Governors Forum, particularly the chairman and the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, members of the Executive Council, members of the family, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, I join all the previous speakers in first and foremost condoling you on this tragic personal loss to you and to the nation and to the family of a leader, President Mohammadu, former President Mohammadu Buhari, whom I was privileged to relate with as a state governor and subsequently as chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, as well as participating in numerous ad hoc assignments to which he appointed me. To say that President Buhari is humble is an understatement. He lived a life that resonates humility, sincerity, and clarity of purpose. I had my earlier baptism of fire on the test of his humility when 10 days to the general election in 2015, a very close friend of his, Colonel Bello Kalial in Kebbi State, died. And he instructed Hadi Sirika to call me. And when he spoke to me, he said, this is personal to him, it's not political. So he wants me to come to the airport with 3 vehicles. And I immediately protested that at that time in our national life, it will be impossible for him to visit any place, and it is kept a secret. But he said I should do my best. So he came to Birnin Kebbi, arrived, and we drove to Bagudo, which is 2 hours away. By the time we reached there, everyone along the route knows that President Buhari has gone to Bagudo. So on our way back, villages, towns, they are all lining up the street. In fact, some are lying on the street. And he refused to roll down the glass to wave at them because he felt that was being political. We were begging him, pleading with him, but that is the hallmark of somebody who exemplifies what he says. May his soul rest in peace. Your Excellency, as a state governor, a feat that I share with many people here under him, especially the Vice President, the Honorable Minister of Defense, the Minister of Works, Minister of FCT, Chairman of NGF, Chairman of PGF, Minister of Police Affairs. We know how, out of his respect for institutions, the National Economic Council was transformed into a body of dialogue rather than a body of monologue. All economic issues were transparently discussed and presented, which strengthened our federalism and, in fact, strengthened the national acceptance of the challenges that were facing us as a nation, because he was even surprised by the magnanimity of those challenges. 27 states could not pay salaries, and so on and so forth. But because issues were, the National Economic Council functioned as a council, because governors who were in the council, who had served previously, had told us how much of a transformation it is, and that has remained so, and it's a big achievement. Your Excellency, in his quest to confront the daunting security and economic challenges he faced and he campaigned on, we all got close to him, all governors, all of us were treated equitably. He interrogated and stated the problems he encountered in a very, very nationalistic and patriotic manner. He used to laugh at how, under him, regrettably, banditry is expanding in the Northwest. He always say the same people, the same religion, but why? And but he, not accustomed to playing blame games, he decided to deal with it head on. Your Excellency, I know I have 5 minutes, I'm sorry. To underscore the economic gravity he faced, of including the 27 states that could not pay salary, and he was always lamenting how is it that workers cannot be paid. So a lot of financial engineering was entered into in order to ensure that, and it was resolved. This is an addition to battling COVID challenge, battling 2 depressions, as well as flooding and expansion of security incidences. But he will remain undoubted. On 2 personal incidences, 7 governors, including 5 from the Northwest, had a meeting at one time. This is Kebbi, Zamfara, Sokoto, Katsina, and Kaduna states, as well as Niger and Plateau, because by then, in 2016, the security challenges is very prominent in these states. And we sat with security service commanding officers, police commissioners of our state at Kaduna, and we came up with a budget of 700 million naira for a military operation. That we came to see him, and regrettably, he told us that there was no money. So let us go and make a contribution, and he will refund us later. So the states contributed 100 million, to which he contributed. Today, the fiscal space has improved significantly as a result of those sacrifices and more. He launched the Anko Borrowers program with the mantra, let us eat what we grow and grow what we eat. I was privileged to be both the chairman of the Presidential Task Force on Rice and Wheat, as well as vice chairman. We went to him again to say that public sentiment is so strong that the service chiefs could do better. And why wouldn't he consider making changes? But the noble person that he is, he said to us, how can he make changes to people whom he could not provide what they truly required of him to do the job? He said he will never do so. He can do so for other reasons, but not because they have failed. That is the hallmark of integrity. And Your Excellency, just in conclusion, he was concerned about Nigeria, especially his relationship with you and the party. In the forerun to the national convention of our party and the primaries, he wrote me 3 letters as chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, all highlighting his respect for rule of law and saying, literally serving as a warning that he wouldn't bend or he wouldn't support any departure from rules. With respect, I will read 2 paragraphs, Your Excellency. In the 16th March letter 2022, he said, it has come to my attention that because of recent events, the APC is faced with multiplicity of court cases pending against it in various courts across the country. As a result of this, the party faces the possibility and prospect of the invalidation of all its activities and action by the Independent National Electoral Commission. No doubt these controversies and uncertainties as enumerated pose a threat to the party and may lead to possible non-recognition of its activities, elections, and probably invalidation of all its other actions by INEC. This may ultimately even lead to implosion and non-existence. This is a precedent with full powers of the federal government warning on 10th of March. Your Excellency, in the 9th June letter which came after the primaries, I will read he said, our candidate, His Excellency Senator Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is no stranger to you. He is our friend and brother. We know his commitment, his track record, and his capacity to lead our party to success. So now is the time for all of us to come together and march forward as we did in 2015 to a convincing APC victory. I look forward to working closely with APC governors to support Senator Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and all our APC candidates to success. Your Excellency, in all humility, I condole you on the loss of your brother, as he described in this letter, President Mohammadu Buhari, of blessed memory, as well as the Vice President and the members of the family and all Nigerians. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you. Next is the Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate.
Your Excellency, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, His Excellency, the Vice President, President of the Senate, Right Honorable Speaker, my colleagues, honorable members of Council, may I stand on the existing protocol. Mr. President, let me also join my colleagues and previous speakers to condole you for the personal loss that has occurred to you and to our nation. Today, we honor the indelible footprints of a quiet but resolute leader, our departed former President Mohammadu Buhari, GCFR. His footprints stretch so symmetrically across Nigeria's over half a century of history since its independence as a nation, and with a tangible impact in all parts of our country, but especially, I will say, in the northeast geopolitical zone of our dear nation. In August 1975, then Lieutenant Colonel Mohammadu Buhari was appointed the governor of the northeastern state, a vast region that encompasses Borno, Yobe, Gombe, Bauchi, Taraba, and Adamawa states of today. During his brief time in office, his pro-poor policies, the infrastructural upgrades, his novel efforts at instilling social justice ignited his widespread popularity in the region that has continued across generations. In 1976, when the federal government decided to split the northeastern state into smaller new states, one of which was Borno State, the youthful colonel would assume duties as the first military governor of that state. In Borno State, Colonel Buhari at that time laid the foundation for Maiduguri to serve as the state capital, building its first administrative offices, civil service structures, while overseeing the complex transition from a larger regional government to a smaller state setup, which ensured a smooth start for the new state and all the other state governments in the region. Years later, as was mentioned, as Federal Commissioner of Petroleum Resources, we saw thousands of kilometers of new oil pipelines, new fuel depots, and a new refinery later. Major General Buhari would assume office later as the nation's head of state. We witnessed at that time, I was very young, how his war on indiscipline brought sanity and efficiency into our public spaces, into our marketplaces, and overall social spheres. This reflected the truth that he deeply understood, that nation building starts with core values, the right values. Beyond that, at that time, Major General Buhari's import restriction decree in 1984 attempted to boost local manufacturing and enhance the profitability of local industry. In fact, car industry was just one industry boosted during the period with an Austrian car manufacturer, Steyr. I was in primary school, I think I was just in secondary school at that time, in Bauchi, and we saw it begin to assemble the Steyr vehicles, which was a landmark at that time. A decade later,
the experienced general will now come back to take up the role of the chairman of the Petroleum Trust Fund, as was mentioned earlier. Across the country, and in particular in the Northeast, we saw thousands of kilometers of neglected roads being rehabilitated, millions of textbooks getting their way to our academic institutions, potable water finding its way to the most far-reaching areas of the region, and health infrastructure being modernized, as well as the popular drug supply system, which reached every nook and cranny of our country. So much of this was then popularly labeled as PTF projects, which we all fondly remember. So for us in the Northeast, it was not unexpected that when the progressive forces of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Mohammadu Buhari joined together to form Africa's largest party in 2013, it was clear that the best was yet to come for our nation and for our region. It is now evidently clear with the leadership that we are witnessing, manifesting the progressive ideology that our country so desperately deserves. As His Excellency, Mr. Vice President, can attest, when he was governor, the onslaught of Boko Haram was such that the economy of the Northeast had been slowed to a near standstill, with millions displaced and mass worth of territory under the control of terrorists, as civilian and traditional leaders were being brutally pushed aside and killed in some areas. President Muhammadu Buhari moved swiftly upon coming to office and effectively to take back the Boko Haram and ISWAP captured lands, resetting displaced residents, restoring traditional schools, and massively upgrading the capacity and organizational architecture of the nation's armed forces. Understanding that economic development is critical to establishing a sustainable victory over the terrorist threats across the country, and especially in the Northeast, which was deeply affected. In the 8 years, he achieved several feats, including many universities and colleges. In the Northeast Development Commission to rebuild, restore, and rehabilitate, several power projects, began the oil exploration projects, major road infrastructure projects, and in social investment, several programs which have continued to date. In health, investments across our country, expansion of footprints, dealing with the COVID-19 crisis under his term leadership, in education, and the social investments. All these are the foundations upon which we must now continue to build upon. His Excellency, President Buhari understood a fundamental concept, that leadership is also stewardship. This was reflected in his consistent respect for established institutions and established processes. He was obviously, and it was mentioned by Minister Keyamo, that President Buhari was a stickler for due process. He leaves us with many important lessons. There are several lessons that we'll continue to learn from this great man. First, he was an authentic leader. There was no difference between what you see in public space and what he is in private. He was consistent over time. Across decades of his public career, I think those who have worked closely with him can testify that President Buhari was an authentic, genuine leader. Those that follow him, those that love him, can see that. Secondly, he has built character, built on self-discipline, restraint, and the courage of his conviction to stand for what is right. That manifested itself in the integrity that is widely acclaimed. Thirdly, he served with humility. I think we have already heard about that. But importantly, His Excellency President Buhari, may God rest his soul, understood the truism that life is ephemeral, it passes, that power also passes, and he lived with that understanding. He was not attached to the world. He did not accumulate. He was not tirelessly pursuing things that ordinarily one would expect for the positions of authority he has held over several decades, understanding that all of it will come to an end. And we have seen in this mid-July that, in fact, that is true. Despite all his serious-minded work, it is also evident that he did not take himself too seriously or life too seriously. He is fully conscious of the transition that we are all in. As we have heard, he regularly cracked jokes with friends, with team members and acquaintances. He lived a modest and decent life. He was a good man. And there are many more lessons to be drawn from the late former president's life. And at this time of our national mourning, and in consonance with Your Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's directive on praying and reflecting on Buhari's life, we will all be served well if we truly sit down and reflect and imbibe the key lessons from the life of this beloved and great leader of our country. We pray, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive and grant President Mohammadu Buhari Al-Jannah Firdaus. May the family that he left behind be blessed. May Allah continue to strengthen and guide you, our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, the Vice President, and all our national leaders. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless Nigeria. May He unite us all, and may He give us all a fine conclusion. Amen. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Let's try to keep to allotted time of 5 minutes. Next is the Honorable Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dr. Dele Nalaki.
Mr. Chairman of Council, President and Commander-in-Chief of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, Vice President Kashim Shettima, the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House of Reps, the governors here present, my colleagues in the Executive Council of Nigeria, the family of our departed hero, ladies and gentlemen. In moments like this, as we say farewell to General Mohammadu Buhari, we reflect on a life defined by unwavering faith, integrity, and devotion to country and maker. His passing not only ends an era, but also calls all of us to honor the principles he embodied. The transition of General Buhari has brought us to such a historic moment. This is a time for reflection and for reigniting our hope for a greater tomorrow. Let us reflect on the life of a man whose social being, as Karl Marx said, determines his social consciousness. A departed president began his journey as a child, studying the Quran and learning the Hadiths. He was raised in the ways of his people, absorbing the teachings of the Holy Prophet. He believed faith holds the key to everyone's fate. These formed the roots of his Stoicism, laid the foundation of his Puritanism, and inspired his selfless nationalism. They explain the simplicity of his style and the candor of his humor and his aversion for materialism. In trials and triumphs, he held steadfastly and studiously to this value. He never doubted that whatever happened was divine, and he always waited on Allah for guidance. The leaders of the then northern Nigeria saw that the military will play major roles in the new Nigeria forming in the 1950s. The regionalist and devolved nature of the federal constitution by Sir Arthur Richards, Sir Oliver Littleton, and Sir John Macpherson disrupted the colonial order's authoritarian unity. The military then was the most crucial and influential institution of state. It was the agency of colonial power, then transitioned into civilian control as the British administration retired and the young Republic of Nigeria kindled. Young Mohammadu Buhari was gently undergoing secondary education between 1956 and 1961 when the headhunters of the northern establishment visited the Katsina Middle School to recruit boys into the military. With his gangling height and straight gait, there was no way he could have escaped the attention of the recruiters and consequently a career in the army. Let us pause to see the value in this crucial insight. Our former president was enrolled to serve a purpose. He was meant to give his people a voice in national institutions undergoing demographic change and martial modernization. He was to help preside over the young Nigerian state's coercive apparatus. At 19, he gave his life to Nigeria, in sickness and in health, in war and in peace, in life and in death. But his commission brought more than danger. It was a commission of guns, of tanks, of bullets, and of bombs. That was what Muhammadu Buhari faced in the Nigerian Civil War. He was trained at the Nigerian Military Training College and at Mons Officer Cadet School in Aldershot, England. And at just 20 years old, he became a platoon commander of the 2nd Infantry Battalion in Abuja. He fought and survived the Nigerian Civil War. He played a leading role in the coups and counter-coups that saw the military intervene in Nigeria's governance. When military music played early at the end of 1983, ending the 4-year rule of the Shagari civilian administration, few were shocked, especially those of us who are chroniclers of events and history in the Nigerian media space. We were not shocked to see Buhari at the top. It was at the perfect time to show that he had matured as a commander and as a nationalist. The war against indiscipline, why, was nationwide. It sought to restore our integrity from the social anomy of the previous era. Of course, Buhari was so determined to save Nigeria, his country, he put patriotism above personal freedom. He expected Nigerians to follow him. He saw libertarians and civic groups as obstacles to his mission and tried to coerce them. He believed the end would justify his means. He trusted his conscience would clear him for inflicting pain on those he thought opposed the state. And in August of 1985, he exited the stage through his removal by his colleagues. Allah saved him as he was detained and retired early. But God had not finished with him. Those 18 months in power might have been marked by some draconian excesses, yet later it became difficult to match the ethical purity, exemplary discipline, and passionate patriotism of the Buhari era. The overthrown leader became the cornerstone of a new consensus of faith and piety. The masses in the north especially rallied to him. He stood for all that the negative elite denied them. They saw him as a father sent by Allah to combat poverty. They called him Say Baba, and he embraced their cause. A mass movement was thus born. Yet the movement needed political power to channel state resources to protect the poor. The party merger that delivered this under the banner of the All Progressive Congress made the dream real. God used President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and other compatriots to bring back a leader whose love for the masses was boundless. Your Excellencies, honorable ministers, today we bid farewell not only to a man, but to an inspiration, a leader whose unwavering devotion to faith and humanity elevated all who knew him. He walked a path guided by integrity and conviction, remaining true to a purpose higher than self. His was a life that inspires us all to reach for greatness, anchored in humility, service, and love for country. Let us tell our children in the creches of Kaduna, in the nursery classes of Nembe, in the primary schools of Ekiti, and all over Nigeria, that in this country a man once lived who could not be tempted with money, who could not be swayed by material inducements, who lived in the conviction that one day he would give account to his maker. That was President Mohammadu Buhari, our hero, our leader of all times. His soul rests in perfect peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Next is Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development, Hajia Suleiman Ibrahim.
The Chairman of Council, the President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. The Vice President, His Excellency Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, the leadership of the National Assembly, executive governors here present, distinguished members of Council, and the family of the late former President Mohammadu Buhari. There are days when we govern, there are days when we serve, and there are days, rare, sacred, when we reflect. Today, as one of those solemn days, a day of remembrance, a day of gratitude, a day of national reflection, a day to pay our respect and our tribute to the man of the people, for the people, and by the people. Great nations are built by leaders who plant trees under whose shade they will never sit. Today we honor His Excellency, the late former President, Mohammadu Buhari, a man who sowed seed of institutional resilience and compassion for the marginalized, knowing that the harvest will outlast his tenure. Yet, as we pause to remember his service, we also recognize this truth. The best way to honor a legacy is not by dwelling on it, but by building on it with courage. Under your leadership, Mr. Chairman, we are doing just that, honoring the past by empowering the future. It is with profound sense of privilege that I speak today, having served under the former late President Buhari as an implementer, and now at the highest level of policy making under the able leadership of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. This rare opportunity has given me a singular perspective to witness how leadership, though different in style, can share an unshakable commitment to Nigerians' most vulnerable and are underserved. It has been said that a nation is judged by how it treats its most vulnerable population. In governance, some are remembered for what they built, but the late President Mohammadu Buhari will be remembered not only for what he built, but for the lives he touched, the people he stood for. He deepened our institutions and strengthened Nigerian sovereignty. He advanced humanitarian response for the underserved population, offering dignity to the displaced, survivors of trafficking, the refugees, and other on the margins. He saw them, he listened, and he acted. As the Director General of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, the NAPTIP, I had the honor of leading the fight against human trafficking. With his support, Nigeria was elevated from the US Tier 2 watch list to Tier 2, a pivotal achievement that averted sanctions and restored our global credibility. Later, as the Federal Commissioner, the CEO of the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons, the NCFRMI, I saw a president who carried the burden of displacement as a personal mission. Against all odds, he ensured the signing of the NCF-RMI Act of 2022, a historic milestone that came after 8 failed attempts and over 14 years of delay. This historic leap gave a legal backing and institutionalized hope for millions of persons of concern, our refugees, the migrants, and the internally displaced persons in Nigeria. One moment stood out vividly, less than 48 hours before leaving office. The late former president sat in these same chambers and virtually commissioned several resettlement cities built for our displaced citizens. He said, I quote, "These people have been through so much. If all I do is give them a place to call home, I am at peace." It was a simple sentence, but profound, and a reflection of who he was and the depth of his compassion. Yet, Mr. Chairman, legacies are not preserved by wishes alone. They are preserved by action. Today, under your visionary leadership and the Renewed Hope agenda, we are writing the next chapter. We are not only building on the late former president's foundation, which recognizes women as the heartbeat of the nation, but we are accelerating it. The strategic inclusion of women, children, and vulnerable groups have moved from policy to priority, from blueprints to budget lines, from economic empowerment to social protection and development. This administration has widened the scope, deepened the scale, and fast-tracked the delivery of inclusive governance. Your Excellency, Mr. Chairman, permit me on behalf of the Nigerian people, especially the women and vulnerable groups whose lives he touched, extend our heartfelt gratitude to you, Your Excellency, for the honor, dignity, and the personal presence you brought to the commemoration of the late President Mohammadu Buhari's passing. Your leadership during this time, your personal presence, your commitment to ensuring a befitting burial for him has not gone unnoticed. This is not just a gesture of state. It is a mark of character and continuity, and we thank you, Mr. President. As we honor his memory, we also affirm that his legacy is not a relic of the past. It is a living force, propelling Nigeria forward under your guidance, Mr. President. May this knowledge comfort his family, comfort the nation, and continue to inspire us all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shower his mercy on Baba Buhari. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive his shortcomings, reward his sacrifice, and grant him eternal peace and alternative Firdaus. Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Next is Engineer David Umahi, Minister of Works.
Your Excellency, the Chairman of Council and President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, Your Excellency, the Vice President, Senator Kashim, Shetima Kashim, Your Excellencies, the leadership of National Assembly, my colleagues, cabinet members, the family of our late president. This is a tribute to our late president, President Mohammadu Buhari, GCFR. It was a moment of unbelief to me when on Monday, 14th of July, 2025, the news made rounds that former President Mohammadu Buhari had died on Sunday, 13th of July, 2025. And this continued until our dear president officially released the news. The first thing that came to my mind was the mystery of the journey of life. Late President Mohammadu Buhari lived a selfless life. He believed and he worked for the oneness of Nigeria. From a disciplined soldier who rose through the ranks of the Nigerian army to serve in many capacities as military governor, military head of state, and to a democratically elected two-term president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I had the privilege of serving as a state governor in those 8 years that he presided over the affairs of this country as the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I can recount a number of unforgettable moments with him. One of such was the time I joined All Progressive Congress, the party. I was in PDP. And we had gone to see him, and it was a very trying moment, the time of NSAS. And when the acting national chairman was the governor of Yobe State, I went with Atiku Bagudu, was the then progressive chairman, or progressive chairman, governor's chairman. I went with, His Excellency Badaru, and then his chief of staff, Professor Gambari. And after we saw a man so excited and so happy, and when we left him, he called back, Professor Gambari and said something to him. He said, "Today remains one of my happiest moments." And he asked him, "Why, sir?" He said, "Because this has demonstrated that I have love for the entire country." And that was very, memorable, statement, for me. I also recall the time he came to commission projects in Ebonyi State. Very disciplined man, and he came by 10 a.m. And he started commission projects, and I recall that for the first time he commissioned a project at night, and that's the light tunnel that we built and named after him. And when by 10 p.m. he was going back to his room to sleep, he said something to me. Many people did not know that he was a very humorous person. And he said to me, "Governor, you know how to punish people." I said, "Mr. President, you signed for this." And he laughed, and he went to his room. I recall a man that so loved, my state and my person, that when we built the airport, the international airport, we named it after him. And he called me and he said, "Thank you very much, but I would rather want you to allow his friend, who was his running mate one time, Senator Chubo Kadibu." He said, "Would you mind if I name the airport after him?" I said, "As you wish." And he did that. And I requested for the federal government to take over the airport. And he approved that. Not only that he approved that here in FEC, and I think Barrister Kaimo will bear witness, he also approved that our state be refunded the amount we use in building that airport. Some FEC members argued that I didn't request for refund, but he overruled them. That's the depth of his love for my state and for my person. And when he was commissioning our university, he said to me, "This university and the equipment you have here, the state cannot manage it. I have to take it over." And he graciously took over the university and even attached a name to it that I will remain very grateful for life for that honor. And let me also remember him, because without him, my present governor wouldn't have been governor, because all was set to change that process. But he called the then chairman of the APC and they warned that the state must be allowed to produce their candidates in APC. So let me recall that he was so fair and very supportive to all the governors, irrespective of party affiliations. He introduced the Anchor Borrowers scheme that helped our agriculture. He refunded Paris Club to governors, and he refunded federal projects done by states. I recall that when I left APC, I was badly fought, and I went to him and said, "This particular governor, please don't give him the money," because the money was very huge. And he laughed, but to our very surprise, he released the money, and the APC governors became very much afraid. But he did that. He also introduced World Bank program on state fiscal responsibility, aimed at transparency of state affairs, budgeting process and procurement process. And we competed, and we won several millions of dollars, which helped states, like ours, to develop their infrastructure. Mr. Chairman, my condolences first go to you, our dear President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. God made you his destiny helper, his friend, and his brother. The whole country and beyond acknowledge the honor you accorded him in life and the decent burial you offered him in death. His burial was a great moment of emotional outpour and deep grief for you and our First Lady. No wonder Arise News captured that moment greatly and joined other Nigerians to appreciate you. I too say You are a good brother, indisputably a good friend of our late president. To the family he left, I pray God to grant you the strength and the fortitude during this period of mourning. To friends and associates, let us be consoled by the sweet legacy of his life that death cannot take away, and through which we will treasure his memory. To the governor and people of Katsina State, I say your help is in our God. My take about his life and his legacies is that while we live, let us live unto the Lord. And while we serve, let us serve with the fear of God. For life is only but a journey. May the soul of our departed leader and former president rest in perfect peace. Amen.
Now, thank you. We invite the representative of the family of late President Mohammadu Buhari, his son, Yusuf Mohammadu Buhari, say a word or two.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I would like to acknowledge protocols already established. On behalf of the entire members of the late Mohammadu Buhari's family, I wish to sincerely extend our deepest gratitude to Mr. President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the First Lady, Senator Oduremi Tinubu, the Vice President, His Excellency Kashim Shettima, and his wife, Hajiya Nana Kashim, for your outstanding pouring support received by the family from the time he took ill until he peacefully passed on, which was Sunday, 13th of July, 2025. It has showed that he was regarded far more than a politician, but regarded as a friend and a father. To all members of the Federal Executive Council, for the care and befitting state burial accorded to our late father, we appreciate you all. I also wish to thank the Senate President, Speaker of the House of Representatives, and all the distinguished and honorable members of the National Assembly for honoring the memory of our late father during the state burial in Deborah. I will also not forget to mention and convey our appreciation for the support from the Attorney General of the Federation and members of the Judiciary, Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Nigerian High Commission in London, the Governor of Katsina State, Borno State as well, and all his colleagues for identifying and standing firmly with us during this difficult period. Let me specially and specifically acknowledge the Chief of Defense Staff, the service chiefs, heads of security and law enforcement agencies, as well as all members of the armed forces of Nigeria, our late father's first and primary constituency, for the esprit de corps, solidarity, and the befitting military burial given to our late father. Finally, we thank all members of the diplomatic corps, traditional and religious leaders, political associates, friends, family members, the press, and indeed all Nigerians at home and in diaspora for the numerous calls, messages, condolence visits, and prayers offered for the repose of the gentle soul of our departed father. Your visits, calls, and prayers symbolize a great honor to the memory of our late father, and we're sincerely grateful for all the support and solidarity expended to the family. May Allah continue to bless us all and to bless all of us. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you, Daddy. May Allah continue to bless, to guide, and protect you throughout your tenure successfully. Long live Mr. President, and long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusuf. Mr. President, before we take the national anthem, we need two prayers, one Muslim, one Christian, for the repose of departed leader. The Deputy Senate President will take the Muslim prayer, while Hope Uzodi, my chairman, Progressive Governors Forum, will take the Christian prayer. Deputy Senate President.
Before we take the prayers, may I in honor of his memory, with this special session of the Federal Executive Council expanded, can we adopt the naming of University of Maiduguri with a new name as Mohammadu Buhari University, Maiduguri. Thank you very much. Now the prayer.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلوا على النبي الكريم ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا وتوب على المسلمين ربنا إننا آمنا كلنا ذنوبنا وقنا عذاب النار ربنا آتنا في الدنيا الحسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا وتقبل الدعاء سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Let us pray. Almighty and ever-living God, we thank you for this moment of your glory. We commit our country, Nigeria, into your holy hands. We commit Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and members of his government into your protective hands. We present the spirit of the former president, President Mohammadu Buhari, into your able hands. Forgive him all his sins, receive his spirit with mercy. Grant him mercy, show him love and protection. Grant his family and all those left behind, affected by his passing, the government and people of Katsina State, and indeed Nigerians, the fortitude to bear this great loss. Listen to our testimonies, O Lord, we pray, and reward him accordingly. May his sacrifice and contributions towards our national growth fetch us unity as a nation, fetch us development, fetch us prosperity, and a better and greater nation, to the glory of your holy name. Lead our president and indeed all of us here gathered back to our homes safely and peacefully. And may the soul of President Muhammad Buhari and the souls of all the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in perfect peace. Amen.
Sorry, before the national anthem, Mr. President will have a photograph with members of the family. After that, we take the national anthem. National. National anthem.